Okay, I gotta make this video real fast for 3 reasons. One, I need to try and help identify this man so that his family can know where he's at, that he's okay. 2, to put 9 or 10 of the sorriest damn people on the face of the earth on blast for their negligence and their bullcrap and their insensitive to the human condition. And 3, for my own psychological therapeutic reasons, because of all of the day's events and how it just took me, reminded me of like so much of my father and what the darkest and hardest time of my life. Anyway, this morning me and my brother were coming from the Cedar Ridge Nature Preserve, the hiking trail in Duncanville, right? And as we're coming down Danieledale, back coming up on Clark, I noticed that there was this old man with this younger brother, a younger black man than him, basically trying to help him off the ground. And then I noticed if we passed him, it's like, as he tried to help him up, he like laid completely out in the grass or whatever. And, on the surface, I'm like wondering whether this, was a man walking with his son or grandson or whatever, and then had a heart attack or fell and broke his hip or something, and, maybe needs help. Nobody had a phone pulled out, but at the same time, they didn't have a vehicle, so I bust a U-turn, turn back around, and me and my brother pull up, trying to see what we could do to help. And come to find out, this old man had fallen. Not only had he fallen, he had fallen on his own and had been there for a while. And if you're familiar with that area, just off over there, in that neighborhood, you got a little Oncor, like little power plant station set up right there. And there were like 9 or 10 workers just working. Wasn't paying this man nobody's bit of attention. Come to find out that the brother that was helping him was somebody who was just walking from the store and seen the man on the ground, and that he had been there for a while. The old man said he had been screaming, to try and get those workers to help him, and they basically, they got work to do. Now, I don't know what type of human being you have to be. I don't know. Maybe they worried about their immigration status. But because they were all, Hispanic. But here's the thing: they were working for Oncor, so I'd like to think these are, people that don't have anything to be worried about, to where they just on some mind your business no matter what status. I find it hard to believe that if it's somebody that they looked at as human, that they just gonna let them sit there laying on the ground in pain, calling for help. Nobody even so much as pick up a cell phone, call 911 and nothing. It's that important, whatever business you got going on for Oncor. And I don't even think they were doing anything electrical. Like, I didn't, I didn't see anybody, fooling with any wiring or transit or anything that could be paused. Or, like, it legitimately looked like they were just moving some stuff. But nobody helped this man. And this is where it got so damn trippy when it started looking at all of the layers besides the situation. Ask this man his name. His name is Robert Lee. He says, Robert Lee. And the first thing me and my brother thought about, because our daddy's name was Robert Lee Burns, So we turned around, it's like, he already reminded us of our daddy. The fact that he was out there walking, like, if you my daddy, the last years of his life, he walked a lot. He walked all over Lancaster. And he dressed like an old man. So if you didn't know no better, you swear nobody loved him or whatever. But no, it was, him being a stubborn old man, just like this dude. This man did not want to get medical attention. Turns out he lives by himself. He told me his address, and he's like, he was walking from his house, you want to say point to 2nd Street, but like right there, if you're familiar with that neighborhood, around Danieledale and Clark, those streets like Waxbury, Pineberry, up off in there. He lived somewhere in there. I forget his official address, but he did have his water bill with him in his pocket. So it has his name and his address on it. But I tried to get as much information as I can from the man. He didn't have a cell phone. He says he has a daughter whose name is Janet or Janice. She's married, so I don't know what her married name is. But, you know, anybody know a Janice or a Janet Lee, you know, maiden name or whatever, you want to let her know that her father fell, and we think he possibly broke his hip or broke his leg, you know, walking from his house right around the area of Danieledale and Clark. And we did insist that he get medical attention because he couldn't stand. He really wanted me and my brother to just take him to his house, and he's like, you know, he'll just wait there until he can call somebody to check on him. But call who? He didn't have a phone, and we asked him, did he, you know a number that we could call that he knew by heart. He said his daughter Janice. He gave the number, but when I called the number, it basically said that that number was either not in service anymore or had changed. So I'm not finna take this man, drop him off at his house to die. He can't move, you know, so we insisted that he gets medical attention. We called the paramedics, you know, a sister and whoever, I guess it must have been her daughter, whatever, stopped and seen what was going on. And she was like, you know, y'all want us to call, you know, the paramedics? You want us to call 911? Because he wouldn't let us call. He's like, no, you know, no, I'm gonna be okay. Just help me stand. We tried to help him stand. He kept me putting pressure on the ship. Like, no, we're gonna sit you back down. And he didn't want to get any medical attention because he's like, he lives by himself. He doesn't have any. He like, I don't even know how I would get back home. It's basically what he turned around and he was talking about. This man's like 70-something, 80-something plus years old. And everything about this man reminded me of my father. And it was real. It was the same way with my brother too. This was real emotional dealing with this shit. And then to add insult to injury, the hospital, it's October 22nd. I'm literally around the corner from where I was working when a young lady had called herself putting a curse on me because I cut off her illegal cable in the same neighborhood, right back years ago, back in like 2009. And I only know the dates because I know that it's coming up on the 14-year anniversary of when my father died. My father, on October 23rd, 2010, went into the hospital, and I thought that basically he was going to die that day. I notified all of the family and everything because he had fell into a state where, you know, basically he was non-responsive, had coded several times by the time I got to the hospital when my mother called me, you know, in tears and whatnot, because all I know was she was supposed to have been taking him to the hospital because of what was going on with him that morning. And then the next thing I know, when she called me and I got to the hospital, it was bad. But the thing is that he was in Charlton Methodist. I went to the wrong hospital at first. I went to the hospital that he had broken his own hip like 6 months before this incident had happened. And Charlton, make a long story less long, negligence on the part of the hospital is the reason why my daddy ended up with a broken hip, but it's also, I believe, the reason why he ended up dying later after what happened when he went into the hospital on October 23rd. But he made an amazing recovery. He went from being where he was unresponsive, had coded several times, and they were telling me that even if he came back, he probably was going to be brain damaged because he was without oxygen for so long, so many minutes, where they were trying to resuscitate him. And I started notifying all of my family. I gathered myself, and I managed to do that. And everybody showed up to show that I made that trip because they thought they were saying their goodbyes. And within 24 hours, this man's family was all over here in Dallas. But the amazing thing, he pulled through. He basically recovered and came out of that and just clear-headed and normal. And it was like, I just knew that my daddy was gone and he lived. And it was like God had gave me a second chance. And I was like, you know what I'm saying? Like, if you've ever heard me explain to why I said that my daddy died twice, I had to lose my daddy twice, because it's a certain level of resolve that you have to deal with to deal with process that you're losing somebody that means what, you know what I'm saying, your father means to you. Especially when you had the type of relationship I had with my daddy. So when he actually did die in the late hours of November 8th, officially they have it November 9th, but it was like 11:30 something at night on the 8th. And then by the time they declared the time of death, it was after midnight on the 9th. So officially they have it, he died November 9th. But I thought I lost my father on October 23rd of 2010. And I officially lost him on November 9th. Or November 8th, whichever you want to define it. But the thing about it was, the man had a broken hip. Robbie Lee Burns had a broken hip. That was part of why he couldn't move around and do the things that he needed to do to help have a better quality of life there at the end. And it became a situation where he was in Charlton Methodist or on Charlton Central when it happened, but he basically was doing rehab for his broken hip, and by the time he ended up going into the hospital, and the one that he ended up dying in, it was Charlton Methodist. I ended up going to Charlton Methodist second when my mother notified me, because when she called me in tears, my brain was still on my father and the fall and what had happened when he had broke his hip in the main Charlton hospital. So I get there, I'm panicked, I'm freaking, and I realize my mother calls me like, "Where are you at?" I'm like, "I'm here." And then she's like, "No, you're not. Where are you?" And then that was when I realized I was at the wrong hospital. I was in such a panic state. And when I got to the right hospital to see my father, like I got trauma, y'all. When I say I got trauma, like real PTSD associated with Charlton Methodist Hospital. The most emotionally and psychologically traumatic days of my life have been spent at that damn place. So now I got to send this man whose name, whose appearance, whose circumstances, everything is reminding me of my daddy, who I lost almost 14 years ago to the day. Right around the corner from the very place where I was working, where I had to wonder if what that girl did, if she actually did go through with it. Tell you the story. Several months before, this was within the year when my father had actually passed away, I was working as a cable auditor. And in that neighborhood, I was auditing ground-based units, and there was this one woman that I tried to catch up to. The day I tried to, because I never just cut anybody's cable off like that. I always tried to talk to him first, let him know. I didn't, it's never an accusing tone like, "Hey, we accidentally left the cable on, but I'm gonna have to cut it off unless somebody decides to get a package." I tried to do that with her. She's asleep. She has kids answer the door, and they, my mama's asleep or whatever. And then, I let them know, like, you need to have your mama call me or whatever. And she left to fly or whatnot. But, I went out to their pig and I disconnected the cable that was hooked up illegally. And then I always would come back and follow up. So I come back the next day and I catch the lady. I actually catch her at home. The cable's not on. And I talked to her about, what I was there for, and how, you know, I had to cut off the cable that wasn't authorized or whatever. But anybody that got cut off, I can get set up with packages, get them back on. And make a long story short, she ends up signing up for a cable package, and she's like, yeah, I was sleepless and whatever. And then she was like, she came and she's like, you know what, baby, you lucky you came back and talked to me. I'm from New Orleans, and I like when people turn around and do me wrong, I put a root on them. She told me, she's like, I was about to put a root on you, baby. You just don't know how close you came or whatever. And I don't play with that, you know, summon whatever, you know, like whatever energy and spirits, demons, whatever. I don't play with that right there. So I'm like, you know, well, damn, you know, is that serious? You was about to do all of that because somebody was doing their job, like, for real? And it wasn't, I mean, like, technically it is stealing, you know, but you was gonna do that? But make a long story short, we turned around and we got off. When I'm walking outside with her paperwork and I'm going to the cable pack to cut her stuff back on, as I'm cutting her stuff back on to leave her with some TV until she gets her actual cable installation, she comes walking outside with a little urn, looked like a little cremation urn. And she had took, just like she said, she took my footprint that I left, my boot print, my work boot print in the, because it was sand surrounding the cable box. She had took that boot print and was doing whatever ritual with this shit. And she took that out and poured it out. You safe now, baby. And the hair on the back of my fucking neck stood up. My father was dead within a year when that shit happened. Yup. I don't know what that hell for something. I don't know what she might have started, whether she could back it off or whether she started it with her intentions or whatnot. I mean, who knows? But I ain't gonna lie to you. All of that shit just came back. The fact that we was right around the corner from there where that happened. And then the events that happened shortly after that with losing my father, you know, that October, November of that year, or that following year. And then everything that transpired with the hospital and dealing with the lawyer when I was checking into wrongful death lawsuits because of everything that happened that I felt led to my father dying. I have, like I said, I have traumas associated with Charlton Hospital Group, in particular Charlton Methodist. And now to have to send that man with no family that I know of to notify, like, y'all don't understand how badly this is fucking with me, that I get in contact with this man's people to make sure that he is okay, just knowing that he's in Charlton Methodist. And he doesn't know how he's going to get home when he's well enough to where they discharge him. Robert Eugene Lee is the man's name. Robert Eugene Lee. I think he has a broken hip. But I know that he doesn't have any next of kin that I know anyway to notify. Only thing I know is that the man said he has a daughter who's married by the name of either Janet or Janice, I forget. And he stays in that neighborhood that I described in Duncanville. But if y'all know anybody that knows a man that fit this description, just please tell him to check on this old man. Please. And if you need more details or specifics, you can inbox me on my Facebook profile, Eric Burns. But somebody, please check on Mr. Robert Eugene Lee. He is in Charlton Methodist Hospital. right now. He fell and he broke his hip this morning. I don't know how long he had been laying there, but when we found him, it was like 9 something. It was before 10 o'clock in the morning.